Good morning and welcome to UPN Focus. I'm your host, Milt Thompson, and again, we've got a wonderful show for you this morning. You know, in the national media, there's all kinds of focus on celebrities and particularly athletes who are engaged in domestic violence. That's also true here in our own community, unfortunately. There are seminars, informationals going around. There's also threats of boycotts and others in other communities when we have this kind of behavior displayed in a public way. We want to discuss that topic in the context of a significant event that's coming around here in September. And we're going to discuss that with our very special guest, who is Tina Darling from over at IUPUI School of Medicine, and with our resident expert on domestic violence from the Julian Center, our good friend Anne DeLaney.
Milt.
And Tina, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Tina, tell us a little bit about your participation organization-wise in the wonderful event that's coming up here this month in September.
Thank you. I'm the project coordinator for the National Center of Excellence in Women's Health at the IU School of Medicine, and we are partnering with the Office of Women's Health at the Indiana State Department of Health and the Indiana Commission for Women and the Indiana State Police to bring the Violence Against Women program to the Indiana Government Center South on September the 18th.
And what is your goal?
Our goal is to educate women about not just domestic violence, but all kinds of violence that happens against women, and to hopefully give them some tools, information, and other resources that they may need to seek a safe place, or if they have a friend or a family member who is a victim of this type of violence, that they will have ways to recognize that and to point them in the right direction.
We've had a specific show here talking about domestic violence with Anne DeLaney and her activities with the Julian Center, and we're going to turn it into a little more specifics regarding current events in our community. We understand that there are a lot of organizations to which people can turn, and of course these four organizations coming together, perhaps having varying kinds of missions. Can you perhaps tell us a little bit more about the Center on Excellence?
Well, the National Center of Excellence in Women's Health is one of 16 nationally designated centers. We are designated by the Office of Women's Health at the United States Department of Health and Human Services. We are all located on academic medical center campuses such as IUPUI. We have a five-fold mission. We have a clinical component. We have a medical school curriculum component where we bring women's health issues into the medical school curriculum. We have a mentoring and leadership component whereby female faculty members mentor female medical students to help bring them through the ranks of the academic medical environment. We have a women's health research component where we promote pilot projects in women's health research, and also an evaluation component where we keep track of how we're doing.
How long have you been in business?
We have just ended our third year this September. Right, this month we were designated in September of 1997.
Well, you're providing services as well as information dissemination to all those. How might people gather information or understand a little bit more about what the goals and missions of the Center on Excellence happen to be?
Well, they're welcome to call me on campus. My phone number is 630-2243, and our clinic number is 630-6523. Some of the things we offer in our clinic are things that you can't normally get at your local family physician or even at your OBGYN. We have a menopause clinic. We have a clinic for urinary incontinence. We provide osteoporosis and bone density screenings. We have a women's cardiology clinic, breast care follow-up, and then we also work closely with the St. Margaret's Diagnostic Breast Center at Wishart.
Have you seen progress in the 3 years, I mean, in terms of not only information, but public awareness about some of the very critical issues that are peculiar to women? And can you maybe sum up, if you will, what that progress has been? And I know we've got a long way to go yet, but hopefully there's been, if you got 3 years of this significant study and work going on, that there are a lot of goal-oriented and bottom-line-oriented people out here, so we'll support our program so long as we can see some results, tangible stuff in terms of people served and how they're served and the progress today.
Well, I think probably the most significant thing we're seeing is an awareness that the health care available to people in general has been based on clinical trials done primarily on men. And we are learning that women experience health care and their health problems far differently from men. And so we are working, one of our goals is to bring more women into clinical trials, to see, for example, we've learned that women have very different reactions to a heart attack, and cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women.
Sounds like to me there is a bundle of resources out there, so some sort of mix between the federal dollars, state dollars, perhaps some others. How do you raise the money to fulfill this mission?
Well, we do have some startup funding from the United States Department of Health and Human Services. The IU School of Medicine has been very generous to us and has supported us 100%, as has Wishart Health Services. Without the School of Medicine in Wishart, we would not be in business. We also seek outside funding for specific projects. We've gotten a lot of help from some pharmaceutical companies and some other local interests in the city and in the state.
Well, tell us about the month and then the event. What are you hoping to accomplish? Who can we expect to see? And what information could we expect to receive?
Well, September was designated by Governor O'Bannon last year as Women's Health Month in Indiana, and so this is our second year. Last year we had kind of a general kickoff in the State House Rotunda, and this year we decided to focus on violence against women. It's open to the public on Monday, September the 18th. The health fair will be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and we have brought in a wonderful speaker, Beverly Coleman Miller, MD, she's a visiting scholar at the Harvard Medical School. And what makes her so special is that she is not only an expert on violence against women, she is a survivor of domestic violence herself. So she brings a very unique perspective. Our goal on that day is to educate women about resources available in the city and the state if they themselves are experiencing domestic violence or any kind of violence. If they have family members or friends, that they will gather some resources to help them. And we'll also have some general health screens available to them that they can come and get, and they are free of charge.
Do you know a word or two about the other organizations that are your partners in this in this proposition?
The Office of Women's Health at the Indiana State Department of Health, they will be there, and they have an osteoporosis prevention initiative, so they will be doing bone density screenings. The Indiana Commission for Women is housed in the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, and so their approach is more probably from a policy side. And then the Indiana State Police has partnered with us as well, since this is a topic that they deal with quite frequently.
Now you've chosen, for one reason or the other, domestic violence or violence against women. Yes. Is it because it's more prominently featured these days, or because it's something on a priority list that needs to be addressed, or are there more interesting topics out there to be able to generate interest? Is there some reason why that becomes a topic for this year?
I think generally because we hear more and more about it, but it's something that's been around for years and years. But oftentimes was never talked about, and it needs to be brought to the surface. It knows no boundaries, it knows no racial parameters, it affects everyone, and not only does it affect the woman who's experiencing it, it affects her family and everyone around her, and we're very concerned about that.
Yeah, I think we're all concerned about that, not only as a community. Clearly we're concerned about that from an image, and we're here particularly in central Indiana proclaiming to be a world-class citizen, and our reaction to contemporary problems are being watched by everyone. And we've got some contemporary problems that are not specific to Indianapolis, but recently on public news, with celebrities and athletes who are engaged in violent acts, and what kind of public reaction we're going to have to that. Clearly the event will start to focus some attention on that. The attention is being focused by the actual acts themselves, and this just happens to coincide with that debate that's ongoing. And when we get back from a short break, I'm going to get with Anne DeLaney and talk very specifically about what's going on in our community right now and what kind of reaction, and not only will this event help deliver information on, but very specifically what kind of action is taking place with other organizations, and we'll do that right after these important words. And welcome back to UPN Focus. We've been in our first segment talking with Tina Darling about the wonderful event for women that will be coming up, kicked off on September 18th, and want to encourage everyone's participation. This year's topic this consortium of organizations that have come together on women's issues is primarily on domestic violence or violence against women. We've had one show prior with Anne DeLaney talking about the Julian Center and its mission as one of the very few really repositories of not only information but protective services for women who are victims of this type of violence, and I think we have learned a lot during that show. As you well know, and as our public knows, we've got significant problems right here in our own backyard, and these are not just things that are down the street. They're in our own neighborhoods, they're in our own families, where these difficult things occur. It illustrated very poignantly when it happens to be some of our quote-unquote celebrities or athletes, or those that we somehow hold in higher regard with respect to our entertainment dollar. That's happened here in Indianapolis. A member of our Indianapolis Colts recently convicted of a misdemeanor of domestic violence. There was a circumstance where there was an unrelated, they say, an unrelated death of the spouse and unborn child. It created obviously a lot of controversy in our community. There has been talk about what kind of reaction will the Colts take, what kind of reaction will the NFL take, wait till the courts speak. Well, the courts have spoken. What kind of reaction will this community have, should it have, and what kind of action are you taking as an organization?
Well, in regard to the latter question first, as an organization, this Sunday we're having volunteers assemble and hand out informational pieces at the Colts game, first home game downtown. It does not mention the Colts, does not mention the particular player, but it is a resource about domestic violence, about the issue itself, and also where services can be provided. We think that's consistent with the Colts' desire to reach out and educate the public about the issue. Because as Tina said, it faces, everyone in the community faces it in one capacity or another. And in fact, the Surgeon General has indicated that domestic violence is the #1 woman's health issue. And that's why the Center for Excellence of Women's Health and the Office of Women's Health at the State Department of Health partnering on this issue is so important, because they've had initiatives that have meant a lot for research in the area, but they've also tried training medical students and residents and practicing doctors to recognize the symptoms and try to just generally reach out to women who are isolated by that. So we're going to do that to continue that going. Obviously, the Colts have had 10 months to think about what they were going to do. Until the adjudication of guilty, he was entitled to the presumption of innocence the same way everyone was. And we were very quick to give him that, to afford him that, and not to criticize the lack of action taken by the Colts. But I frankly would have liked to have seen action taken immediately upon the judgment of guilty, because I think to do anything less makes it seem as if it's not a serious offense, and it is, particularly for someone who spends his life building up his strength. And for him to beat a woman who is pregnant and also a 6-year-old in front of the 6-year-old seems to me, and then suit up 2 days after the finding of guilty and play with a jersey on saying the Indianapolis Colts sends the wrong message to children.
Well, was there concurrence with Colts management on the dissemination of this information,
Yes,
as well as some of the values?
We have talked to them about that and explained what we're doing, and they're fine with that. They're also going to put up posters with tear-off cards for the shelter number in the restrooms at the RCA Dome, as well as to hand out other information. And they're taking steps to help with the public awareness campaign, and that's good. I don't mean to minimize that. We're encouraged by that.
Is one ever cured of being a perpetrator of these kind of crimes? Is one ever cured?
Well,
you used
to do criminal prosecutions.
Well, that's why I asked that question. We know about recidivism, and once those have been convicted, and we also know about punishment. And once one's kind of been punished, what becomes a reaction after that? Is a deterrent for others to do all those kind of things? I don't want to get into a law school debate, Ann, but I'm trying to understand.
Well, let me say
what kind of reaction should our community have?
I think
and what to expect to have in return for that reaction.
Okay, I think that the key on this is to treat the first offense seriously. Because if you're going to have a situation where the criminal justice system and counseling can intervene to prevent the batterer from doing it again and again and again, you've got to do it early in the relationship. And that's when people tend to slough it off. First convictions get suspended sentences. They get minimal, and 12 weeks of counseling is minimal under those circumstances. If we acted much more strongly towards that, we would have, towards the first offense, and intervened earlier in the process, we would have a chance of rehabilitating offenders. But when a pattern of conduct goes on for a long period of time, and the woman is seriously injured, it's an escalating scale of violence. And by the time she gets to the point of emergency room treatment and serious injury, the chances that he's going to do it again and again and again go up dramatically.
Well, recognizing that this problem is not specific to athletes, I mean, this is one that is really an illustration of a systemic issue, a problem that goes that's pervasive, way too more pervasive than any of us would really like. To what degree is there equity in utilizing now this highly public incident as a case, as a demonstration? Is it informational, or is it intended to be punitive? Is it intended to be rehabilitative? What kind of public reaction should we have? And then, quite frankly, what kind of reaction do you think? You're a professional, you understand these issues better than anybody. What kind of reaction should a football team, a professional team that's a part of this community have when this occurs? I mean,
I think they have to be held to a higher standard than someone on an assembly line or someone in a relatively less visible position, because they are role models, whether I like it or you like it or Tina likes it or not. Athletes are held up in our community as role models. And when they play for the Indianapolis Colts, they represent the city of Indianapolis also. So they may not like that, but they do benefit from that, both in terms of our tax dollars providing the facility for them to play in and the like. So I think they have to be held to a higher standard. The chances of rehabilitation, I think, go down dramatically when there's no remorse shown. I mean, if this individual had admitted guilt and spared that 6-year-old the trauma of having to testify against him and hadn't disputed the facts all the way up, I'd feel differently. But I don't see any remorse on his part. I don't see any attempt to recognize the fact that he did something wrong. So I'm really not focusing on rehabilitation at the moment. I'm focusing on the fact that in order to send a message to the community, you have to treat it as a serious offense. You can't be cavalier and say, that's just a family matter, we don't get involved in that. Because Tina is absolutely right. The impact on the women involved is substantial. The impact on the children in those families is just devastating. Those children are going to be involved with, I don't know if that's 6-year-old in particular, but the statistics would say that children from those families are going to commit violent offenses while juveniles, fail in school, suffer from depression and anxiety, fail as adults, and wind up in the system either as victims or perpetrators for the next generation. This is clearly
more than just ironic timing, because this occurs all the time. So happens that this happens and coincides with the event. Tina, will there be opportunity during this month or during at least the kickoff? We're going to hear from experts talking about that. We're hearing from experts talking about that right here today. Will there be a chance for the public to engage in this debate, opportunities to discuss it, get it off their chest, if you will, because a lot of people feel very strongly a lot of different ways about it. I don't know very many people who condone the activity, but the reaction to that kind of crime elicits probably more emotive responses than almost any other kind of crime that exists out there. Will there be a chance for people to go out there and get it off their chest and then really find out if there's some therapy in that?
Well, on the 18th, we will have a question and answer session with Dr. Coleman Miller following her remarks, so there will be that opportunity. But at the health fair, we will have representation from various women's shelters in the city and in the state, and they can get literature, they can ask all kinds of questions, talk to as many people as they like that day.
This is so very important. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about it right after these short words. And welcome back to UPN Focus. We've been having a very fascinating discussion about domestic violence in the context of an event, particularly there locally with an Indianapolis Colt football player convicted of domestic violence, the reaction, and other than getting information disseminated at Sunday's game, what kind of things are you conspiring with the Colts to do relative to information?
Actually, the Colts have offered to put posters in all the restrooms with tear-off cards for the shelter numbers for women. They've also offered to put an insert in the programs talking about services available to people who are in violent situations. And they're talking about making space available for some of the agencies that deal with this issue to have information available for people to pick up at games. So they're trying to cooperate in that regard.
I wish domestic violence would go away altogether. Clearly, if we had to have it at all, that it could be compressed into 1 month, where we could focus our attention and energies and resources on ultimately ridding ourselves of that purge. But the information goes on for much further than the month of an event, and the need to avail oneself of those services go on for that. Other programs that the center is going to be involved with in conjunction with or independently of the other organizations that are your partners?
Well, the IU School of Medicine every fall and every spring sponsors Mini Medical School, and this fall they have agreed to focus on women's issues, and Anne DeLaney will be one of our speakers during Mini Medical School. I believe it starts at the end of September and runs through early November. For information, people can call 274-7722, and that's the Office of Public and Media Relations at the IU School of Medicine, and they can give the exact dates and times.
So we'll have not only other experts, we'll have one of the seminal experts in our community on this issue. We'll be actually teaching in a mini medical school.
Right.
For laymen. I mean, it's for lay people to come in and talk to doctors and discuss issues regarding women's health.
Right.
And your subject matter, Ann, in those circles are going to be primarily on domestic violence, perhaps even law enforcement reaction to that. Well, everyone, let's go back to one last time here with the event that's going to happen September 18th.
Correct.
And it's going to happen at the Government Center.
The Government Center South.
South in the Rotunda.
In the atrium.
In the atrium.
Yes.
And it's open and free to the public.
Everything is free.
And everyone can show up, and they can, if they want information, they can call what number again?
630-2243.
And Anne DeLaney, you want everyone who is going to attend Colts game, not only on this Sunday, but in subsequent Sundays, to recognize that there is a problem out there, and that there are solutions out there that are being worked on by numerous people in our community.
That's right.
And I want to thank you very, very much for that input. We'll be right back after we hear from this calendar.
Here are some events in our area for you to focus on. If you're looking for some fun today, come on out to the 13th annual Old Oak Landing Days. The festival includes over 100 booths of Indiana's finest arts and crafts. There will be entertainment throughout the day. Old Oak Landing Days starts at 10 a.m. today and runs through 5 p.m. And the Brownsburg Fall Festival is Saturday, September 16th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Arbuckle Acres Park. This family fun day has activities to promote enjoyment for the entire family. There will be hot air balloon rides, musical entertainment, craft booths, and lots of things to eat. And it's time for the 4th annual Indiana Ford Stores Indianapolis Air Show 2000. Come witness thrills, excitement, and unusual aircraft displays. The show is Saturday and Sunday, September 16th and 17th at the Mount Comfort Airport. We want to hear from you. Send your event information 3 weeks in advance to be part of the UPN 23 community calendar.
And I know you'll take advantage of those wonderful calendar events, as well as the events that are coming up here in September on women's health and domestic violence specifically. Anne DeLaney from the Julian Center, thank you again for appearing on our show. Look forward to having you again as this debate continues to percolate, but we want to be at the forefront of getting information about how people can solve this problem. And Tina, wonderful success.
Thank you.
And look forward to participating in that, and look forward to you participating again right here next week on this show. See you next week.